Hi, Music 203 students. Dr. Schultz here. I hope you're doing well. Today's video is about voice leading with the secondary dominant chords. And you'll need your textbook, page 260, part F, for this. And what you might want to do is pause the video if you haven't already copied these examples onto another piece of staff paper. Go ahead and do that. So we're going to do these two examples together here on page 260, part F. So go ahead and copy the examples onto a separate piece of staff paper. Give yourself plenty of room to complete them. Okay, the first thing that I want to do here is to realize the figured bass. Now we have a few symbols here to look at. There's a 6-5, 4-2 with a plus next to the 4, 6, 4-2, 6, and a 7. And let's go through these and make sure we understand how to get the correct Roman numerals. First of all, we're in the key of D, and so the D sharp is definitely chromatic to the key, and that's a great hint that you found a secondary chord or some sort of chromatic chord. Same thing here. Notice how the C natural is outside the key signature. Notice this note actually belongs to the key signature, but this plus next to the 4 is more than likely going to indicate a note foreign to the key signature, so another secondary chord more than likely. Okay, so first chord is 1, D, F sharp, A. Remember that if there's no number below the bass, that stands for root position. Okay, 6-5, remember, represents the 7th chord with a 3rd in the bass. So if this is the 3rd, B would be the root, right? And so you'd be thinking of the chord B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. We know it's a D sharp because it's marked in. The F sharp's in the key signature. Now you can see that chord is outside the key. It's a secondary dominant. Now B is the dominant to the key of E, and in the key of D major, E is number 2. This is 5-6-5 of 2. Now again, the chromatic note is a great clue that you found some sort of chromatic chord. In this case, it's a secondary dominant. We know it's a secondary dominant because it's spelled like a major minor 7th chord. Major triad with a minor 7th. Now, most often, secondary dominants go to the chord they're tonicizing. So 5-6-5 of 2 typically goes to 2, and you can see that's what's happening here. Okay, the next chord says 4-2 with a D natural, and there's a plus next to the 4. Now the plus next to the 4 tells me to raise the 4th above this bass note. 4-2, of course, also tells me that this is the 7th of the chord. So if this is the 7th of a 7th chord, the root is going to be E, right? So it's E, G, B, D, according to the key signature. But remember, the 4th above the D, if you count up 4 from D, D, E, F, G, the G will become a G sharp. So you see the chord is actually E, G sharp, B, and D. Again, that's a dominant 7th chord. Notice the major triad with the minor 7th. So E is a dominant to the key of A, and in the key of D major, A is 5. Okay, now we expect this chord to go to 5, and it does. You can see here this is the 3rd, so the root is A. We also expect a 5-4-2 chord to go to its tonic in first inversion. So 5-4-2 of 5 most likely would go to 5-6 because the 7th in the bass has to go down by a step to the 3rd of this chord. Okay, C natural here, 4-2 position. So if C is the 7th of the chord, then you want to ask yourself, what's the root? And you can see it's D, right? So D, F sharp, A, and C natural. Now the C natural is foreign to or outside of the key signature. So again, it represents a chromatic chord. And so far we've only learned secondary dominant, so you can guess it's going to be one. We will learn other chromatic chords in the future, of course. And there are many other chromatic chords that can occur besides secondary dominance. D, F sharp, A, C. Major triad, minor seventh, that is a dominant seventh chord. And D is the dominant to the key of G. And in the key of D major, G is 4. And as expected, remember that little shortcut, if you see a dominant seventh chord written on the tonic in the key of D, here we have D, F sharp, A, C, you know it's the dominant of 4. It's just a little shortcut to remember. And as expected, 5, 4, 2 of 4 is going to 4. 4, 6, right? This is a third of the chord, so the root's G, G, B, D, B in the bass. And again, 4, 2 chords usually go to first inversion tonics. So 5, 4, 2 of 4 going to 4, 6. Tonics meaning if this is a secondary chord of 4, then this is the temporary tonic, right? All right, next chord is simply the dominant, A, C sharp, E, and G. And the last chord is 1. Now, when you write a Roman numeral analysis in these examples, please don't write the Roman numerals on the figures. So in other words, don't include this figured bass with your Roman numeral. Make sure you include your own inversion symbols on your own Roman numerals. And I always tell students, please write your Roman numerals below the given figures, because you wouldn't want to write this on the Roman numeral, right? Okay, so now we're all set to voice lead this. When you voice lead secondary dominance, I recommend thinking about it as a temporary tonicization, just like the book suggests. So when you're looking at 5, 6, 5 of 2 going to 2, what you're really thinking about is 5, 6, 5 going to 1 in whatever key the 2 chord represents. So in the key of D, the 2 chord is E, right? E minor. Well, this is going to look and sound just like this chord progression, but in the context of D. Same thing here. If you're going to voice lead 5, 4, 2 of 5, going to 5, 6, let's think about that in relationship to the key of D. 5 is A, so this will look and sound just like 5, 4, 2 going to 1, 6 in the key of A. Okay, now, you don't need to include this in your Roman numeral analysis. I'm just putting it there so that you can see and think about it in that way. Same thing here, 5, 4, 2 of 4 going to 4. Think about this as your temporary tonic. And so in the key of G, right, you'd be thinking about it as 5, 4, 2 going to 1. So that'll help you along. You're going to have the same voice leading as you would in these 3 keys, but in the context of the home key, the tonic key of D major. And you'll talk about the same kinds of things. You'll have the 7th of the chord going down by step, and you'll have the leading tone. Well, in this case, it's going to be the temporary leading tone. The temporary leading tone in the key of this temporary tonic is going to go up by step. So 7th of the chord down, temporary leading tone goes up. Well, going into it, you just want to keep as many common tones as you can. And you can see here the F sharp is common. Okay, so right now we have the D sharp and the F sharp. We're missing the B and the A. Well, we can definitely keep the A as well, and then move this tone to the B. So you just want to keep as many common tones and move as stepwise as you can into secondary dominance. Now, coming out of it, again, you really want to think about it as 5, 6, 5 going to 1 in the key of E minor. It's going to be the same voice leading the same sound, but in the context of the home key, the tonic key. So the temporary leading tone in this case is here. Remember, the temporary leading tone will always be the third of the dominant, right? So B, D sharp, F sharp, A. The D sharp here is the third of this chord, It's acting as the temporary leading tone in E minor. The seventh of the chord is the A, so you do want to make sure that that comes down by step. And it's just like the voice leading that we learned from chapter 13, talking about the inversion of dominant seventh chords. Keep the common tone B, double the root. And again, you don't need to include these arrows. I'm just showing you the voice leading with them here in this example. Okay, keeping as many common tones, well, we can keep the B, we can keep the E, and then move the G to the G sharp. Now in this case, you're thinking about this temporarily in the key of A, the G sharp is your temporary leading tone. The seventh of the chord, which is in the bass, is going down to the third of this chord, and that's why 5-4-2 goes to its temporary tonic in first inversion. All right, and then let's see, we can keep the common tone E here. And we want to double the A in this chord because it's an anchor tone. Now it's an anchor tone in this key because this is a temporary situation. So you actually want to double the anchor tone in the temporary key. In this case, it's the root of the chord, as you normally would. Going from 5-4-2 to 1-6, you double the root, right? Okay, and going into the next chord, again, keep as many common tones as you can. We're going to keep one of these A's, and I'm actually going to keep this one to maintain a little more space between my bass and tenor. That will allow me to take this to the F sharp, the soprano. And then I can take this note to the root of the chord, the D. Okay, again, we're thinking about this temporarily as 5-4-2 going to 1-6 in the key of G major. Here's the seventh going down. Here's your temporary leading tone. Make sure you resolve that. Hold on to the common tone. And then, again, double the root in this chord because G is the anchor tone in the key of G. All right, and then finishing up here, we have the 5-7 diatonic going to 1 in the key of D. Given this chord right here, you can see that it's going to make the most sense to hold on to one of the G's and then move one of these to A and move this to the C sharp. Now what I've done, of course, is I've left this to be incomplete. Remember, you can do that 2 roots, 1/3, 1/7, but no fifth. If you wanted complete, I suppose you could hold on to one of these G's and move the other one to an E. Just watch out though, if you move the soprano to an E, you'll have a direct or hidden fifth with the soprano and the bass, right? This sixth right here would go to a fifth and there'd be a leap in the soprano. So that's why it makes a lot more sense to go with this and leave out the fifth. Okay, the seventh of the chord is here, so make sure you take that down. The leading tone, in this case, is going to resolve because I can just keep this common tone A. All right, let me play this for you now. Here's D major. First of all, take a listen to the bass line. Okay, and with the chord progression. All right, now when you listen to it again, make sure you're hearing how this chord progresses to this one as a temporary tonicization. So you want to hear this as a dominant going to its temporary tonic, this dominant going to its temporary tonic, and this dominant going to its temporary tonic. So see if you can hear those 5-to-1 type progressions in the overall context of D major. right, the next one is in G minor. And again, the first thing we're going to do is to realize the figures by writing a Roman numeral analysis. So here we are in the key of G minor. First one is 1. Notice this is not an F sharp. It is in fact an F natural. And so the chord is actually major 7. All right, remember the diminished 7 is spelled on F sharp AC. The major 7 chord, a whole step below the tonic here, is spelled F natural A and C. All right, and then this is root position, so that's going to be 3. 6/5, remember it tells you to have a first inversion 7th chord, and this is going to be the 3rd in the bass. So if that's the 3rd, the root is G, right? G, B natural, D, and F, according to the key signature. Well, that looks like a secondary chord because this is outside of the key signature, remember? This is also a major minor 7th chord. Major triad with a minor 7th. So you're going to ask yourself, G is the dominant 7th chord where? Or where is this 5, right? G is a dominant to the key of C, and in the key of G minor, C is number 4. Now, as expected, it does progress to the 4 chord in the next harmony here. So 5, 6, 5 of 4 typically goes to 4. This next one is a little more tricky. It says 6/5 with a natural. Now remember, if there's no number next to this natural or a sharp, if there's no number next to it, it applies to the 3rd above the bass. So 6/5 means 7th chord with the 3rd in the bass. So the root is A. Now if I'm using the notes in the key signature, I would have an E flat there, right? You can see that makes no sense, but the 3rd above the C sharp is an E. So yes, it is in fact an E natural. So the chord is spelled A, C sharp, E natural, G. This is telling me to raise the 3rd above the bass in relationship to the key signature. So the E flat becomes an E natural. Okay, A7 we have here, right? A major triad with a minor 7th. A is a dominant to the key of D, which in this key is number 5. Okay, and as expected, the next chord is 5. Notice this time, the sharp applies to the 3rd of the dominant, which is the leading tone in the scale, right? So not D, F, A, but D, F sharp, A. All right, the next chord is E flat in the bass, root position. So that's diatonic 6 chord, which is E flat, G, B flat. 6/5 indicates 7th chord. 3rd in the bass here, so the root is A. So the chord is spelled A, C, E flat, and G. And you can see that's just a diatonic 2 chord. Now it's half diminished. Again, make sure you write your Roman numerals on their own line below the figures given. D, F sharp, A here. Again, the accidental with no number next to it applies to the 3rd above the bass. So D, F sharp, A. And the last chord here is going to be 1. G, B flat, D. Sorry about that. All right, so here's the chord progression. 1, major 7, major 3, 5, 6, 5 of 4 going to 4, 5, 6, 5 of 5 going to 5, deceptive resolution, 2, 5, 1 to finish it off. All right, so just like before, I think it's important to notice that when you have a secondary dominant going to its temporary tonic, the voice leading will look and sound just like this in whatever key this chord is representing. Because remember, this is the temporary tonic. So if we're going to a C chord here, then we're going to think about this temporarily in the key of C minor, right? So it's going to look and sound just like 5, 6, 5 going to 1 in C. This will look just like 5, 6, 5 going to 1 in the key of D. right? Where this is your temporary tonic. And so the same kind of thing as before, we want to make sure that the seventh of the chord, this is the leading tone, the seventh of the chord goes down and the temporary leading tone goes up. Okay, voice leading here. Let's see, be careful. If you move this to the F, you're going to have a parallel octave, right? So let's do this instead. Okay, the 3 chord is B flat, D, and F. And it looks like we can keep this common tone here. And we need a B flat and a D. G, B, D, F, again, keep as many common tones as you possibly can. We can keep the F. And we can keep the D. But we also need a G. Okay, now once you have this chord voiced, notice that we have the leading tone. Well, it's a temporary leading tone because you're thinking about it temporarily in C minor. The temporary leading tone is resolving up. The seventh of this chord is F. And so the F needs to go down by step. And then we can hold on to the common tone and double the root. So this looks and sounds just like 5-6-5 going to 1 in the key of C minor. A, C sharp, E natural, G. We can keep the G. And let's see here. A, C sharp, E. We can move this to the A. And then we need an E natural. So again, it just becomes a matter of keeping as many common tones and moving in the most stepwise way as possible coming into these secondary dominants. Don't forget your E natural. That's what this is for here. A, C sharp, E natural, G. The temporary leading tone is C sharp because you're thinking about it temporarily in the key of D. The seventh of the chord is G, so that should go down by step. Don't forget your leading tone. We're in a minor key here. That's what this sharp is for. Double the D and keep the common tone. Okay, remember when you're moving from 5 to 6, you're going to double the third of the 6th chord. And the leading tone should resolve. The D, if you move it to the E flat here, it's going to be a parallel octave. So move it down a third to the B flat. And then double your third. Remember, the third of the 6th chord is also the tonic of the scale degree 1. All right, the next chord, A, C, E flat, G. And we're going to keep one of these Gs, but we need to move the other one to A or E flat. Let's see here. We can keep top G. We can move this to A, and then move the alto to E flat. How's that? So again, just being as stepwise as possible, moving everything as stepwise or keeping common tones if there are any. A, C, E flat, G. Remember, this is the 7th of the chord. The 7th goes down by step. Don't forget the F sharp, which is needed for G minor, right? Leading tone is the 3rd of the dominant chord. Okay, so in this chord, remember the 7th should go down by step. The 7th of the chord is G. Here's the 7th going down by step. Okay, lastly, because this leading tone is the upper voice here, it should resolve. We'll do that. We also need the B flat, the 3rd of the chord. Keep the common tone. All right, there it is. All right, let's take a listen to it. Here's G minor. And first of all, here's the bass line. Okay, and here's the chord progression. All right, this time as I play it, make sure you're listening for the temporary tonicization of the 4 chord here, 5, 6, 5 of 4 going to 4, and the temporary tonicization of the 5, 6, 5 of 5 going to 5.